We have all been there. I mean, you're sitting at your desk, you're staring at a complex report maybe, or just the sheer number of choices for a project, and you just freeze.
Hmm.
You know what you need to do. You even want the outcome. But starting feels impossible, like wading through cement. And then, an hour later, you've just reorganized your entire email inbox instead.
Right, and that phenomenon where you act against your own better judgment, it actually has an ancient name. Akrasia.
Akrasia.
Yeah, it's a concept the ancient Greeks wrestled with, and today we are doing a deep dive into the modern science behind that exact freeze. Our mission really is to understand why this overwhelming feeling leads to procrastination, which, as our sources show, it's less about bad time management and much more about failed emotional regulation and cognitive overload.
So we're looking at sources from neuroscience, organizational psychology, behavioral economics. I mean, the whole gamut. We want to know when the thought of starting becomes overwhelming, when you get that analysis paralysis, what is actually going wrong inside our minds? Why does overthinking just stop everything? Okay, let's unpack this.
To really get it, we have to start with the engine. We have to talk about dopamine.
The pleasure chemical.
Exactly, and that's the big misconception. Pop culture has really oversimplified it. If it were just about pleasure, why would we ever chase things that are, difficult?
Right. It's not the reward itself. It's the craving for the reward, right? The
Mhm.
anticipation, the seeking. It's the brain's motivational control system pushing you forward.
Precisely. And that system works in a few different modes. First, you have this steady, low-level release called tonic dopamine. You can think of it as the background hum that just keeps your neural circuits running.
Just the baseline.
The baseline. Then you have phasic dopamine. These are the sharp, transient, sub-second bursts. And these are crucial because they signal something sudden and important, like an unexpected reward. They're what's responsible for behavioral learning.
I thought the research on that ramping mode was fascinating because it reframes motivation as more than just a quick hit. It's like a commitment.
Yes, that's the newer research on a third mode, the quasi-phasic or ramping mode. Picture it like this. As you get closer to a goal, this dopamine activity ramps up slowly until you get the reward.
So the ramp itself is the motivation.
The steepness of the ramp is the motivation.
Yeah.
The steeper it is, the more valuable the brain has decided the reward is, and the more effort you're willing to put in. It's your internal effort thermometer.
Okay, so if the dopamine system is always sort of calculating if the juice is worth the squeeze, it must be constantly processing. What is it, reward prediction error?
RPE. Correct. Phasic dopamine signals the RPE. And that's the key metric for learning. It's simply the difference between the reward you get and the reward you predicted you'd get.
So a positive surprise means a dopamine hit.
A big one. If you predicted 5 points and you get 10, you get a burst of dopamine. That reinforces the behavior. But if you get exactly the 5 points you predicted, no surprise, no new burst, not much learning.
And if you predicted 5 and only got 2,
Then you get a negative RPE, a sudden dip in dopamine. Your
Yeah.
brain basically says, abort this strategy, the effort was wasted, find a new path. The whole mechanism is this deep evolutionary drive, always pushing us to seek better outcomes and never settle.
wait, okay. If this ancient system is designed to push us to seek more, how does that same drive become the root of a very modern problem like procrastination?
That is the clash. That's where the future self and the present self collide. We're getting into behavioral economics here with a concept called time inconsistency.
Right.
When you're planning for the long term, say, writing a book, your future self sees that massive delayed reward. It predicts a huge positive RPE at the finish line.
But when you actually sit down to start, that finish line is miles away. It's invisible to the dopamine system because the immediate action, the hard work yields what, 0 reward? Or even a negative one.
Exactly. The present self values instant gratification above all else. The brain says the cost of starting this is immediate pain and anxiety, and the reward is weeks from now. Go find a quicker, easier, positive RPE. And that, right there, is how the intention-action gap forms.
So procrastination isn't really a character flaw. It's more like a botched attempt at emotional self-medication. We're just trying to avoid the discomfort and anxiety the big task brings up.
That is the core finding. Procrastination is deeply, deeply linked to failures in self-regulation and emotion regulation. We put off the task to avoid the negative feelings, the anxiety, the fear of failure, especially for perfectionists.
Oh, for sure.
For them, the effort is tied directly to their self-worth, so the stakes feel impossibly high.
And when we put off that big, scary task and turn to something easy, like clearing out our inbox or, I don't know, cleaning the junk drawer,
You get a temporary reinforcing relief. That little hit of feeling productive Even on a totally non-essential task, it acts as an immediate positive reward, a little RPE hit.
So by avoiding the big thing, you reduce your immediate anxiety, which then creates a positive feedback loop of avoidance.
You've got it. It literally teaches your brain that avoidance is a successful strategy. It can harden what was temporary avoidance into a core personality trait.
So if procrastination is about avoiding this discomfort, where does that discomfort hit the hardest when we start overthinking? I'm guessing it hits the brain's CEO, the part we rely on for planning and willpower, the DLPFC.
We're talking about the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the DLPFC,
Ah.
yes. This region is the absolute control center for your higher-level executive functions. Working memory, planning, self-control, all of it.
So when that's struggling, everything falls apart.
Everything. You
Yeah.
can't keep complex thoughts in mind. You can't plan effectively. And that is exactly when you spiral into analysis paralysis.
Okay, so if the DLPFC is the control center for willpower, it sounds like analysis paralysis is what happens when that resource just runs out.
That's the entire concept of decision fatigue. Self-control and willpower are finite cognitive resources. Every single decision, from what to wear to what font to use, it costs you something. And that resource pool drains over the course of the day.
And when you hit empty, your brain defaults to the path of least resistance.
Which is avoidance or just choosing the easiest possible option. Often that's procrastination.
And our modern digital world is it feels like it's precision engineered to drain that pool as fast as possible.
It's a cognitive vampire effect, truly. The research is stunning. The mere presence of your smartphone on your desk, even face down and silent, it drains available working memory.
Just by being there.
Just by being there. Because a part of your brain is constantly spending energy to inhibit the urge to pick it up. And that inhibition is cognitively expensive. Then you add the constant barrage of alerts. I think the average user gets nearly 50 push notifications a day. And the constant task switching. It just exhausts the DLPFC and hijacks your whole motivational system.
Because that little ping from a notification,
Yeah.
that's exactly the kind of unexpected novel thing our dopamine system is built to crave.
Absolutely. Dopamine neurons encode for what's called motivational salience. They get excited by surprising and novel events. That ping is a perfect little surprising sensory event that triggers a tiny dopamine burst.
So the brain gets addicted to the novelty hits.
It does. It makes it almost impossible to focus on the long, difficult task that offers no shiny instant rewards.
Yeah.
Your brain literally learns to prioritize the noise.
So brute willpower is not the answer. We have to be smarter. We have to engineer the process to outsmart our own primitive wiring. Let's get into the strategies the sources recommend.
Okay, so since the biggest psychological hurdle is just starting, that intense friction, the first strategy has to be about dramatically reducing that friction.
Make it smaller.
Make it tiny. The key is to reduce the size of the habit and focus all your energy on just the ritual of getting started, not the huge final result.
So you don't worry about writing the 100-page report. You worry about sitting down, opening the document, and writing one sentence. That's the whole goal.
That's the whole goal.
Mm.
Because it's often less painful to actually be in the work than it is to be procrastinating about the work.
So true.
And strategy 2 takes that and makes it concrete with what are called implementation intentions. Studies show that if you predetermine a specific date, place, and time for an action, you skyrocket the probability of actually doing it.
So instead of a vague goal like, I'm going to work out more, you make it a formula.
A formula. On Tuesday at 6 p.m., I will put on my running shoes and go for a 20-minute run at the park. It turns the intention into an automatic trigger. It saves your DLPFC from having to make a decision in the moment when your resources are probably already low.
Okay, now let's talk about leveraging dopamine itself, especially for those projects that take months, where the final reward is so far away. How do we keep the momentum?
You have to prioritize continuous small rewards over that one big delayed reward.
Break it down.
You have to. Research shows that giving small, regular positive feedback for completing little milestones increases interest and enjoyment far more than waiting for the massive payoff at the end. It's about celebrating progress.
Which is basically why gamification works so well in organizations. It's designed to keep that dopamine system engaged.
Precisely. They use variable rewards, points, badges, whatever. The key is that the anticipation of an unpredictable reward triggers a much more potent and sustained dopamine release than a predictable one.
So that unpredictability keeps you hooked.
It turns routine tasks into miniature quests, and it creates that crucial positive feedback loop to counteract the negative loop of avoidance we talked about.
Right.
Positive feedback itself activates the dopamine pathway and enhances executive function. So by tracking your progress, by making it visible, you are literally retraining your brain and your DLPFC to encode successful, goal-directed behaviors.
And finally, to protect against that cognitive overload, that decision fatigue, we have to conserve our executive power for what actually matters.
This is all about standardization and batching. Standardize low-stakes, routine tasks, your meals, your morning routine, to save brain space. The top strategists, the entrepreneurs, they use their peak brain time, usually the morning, for high-stakes decisions.
And they save the low-impact stuff, like email, for later.
For when the resource pool is naturally lower, it's just smart energy management.
So we've really taken procrastination out of this realm of being a moral failing and put it where it belongs. In this complex intersection of ancient motivational drives, like dopamine's reward prediction error, and very modern cognitive pressures, like decision fatigue. The solution isn't just to try harder. It's to be a better engineer of your environment, your rewards, and especially your starting rituals.
And this brings us all the way back to that state of focus we're all looking for. We said that dopamine neurons get really excited by alerting events and novelty, but, and this is key, those bursts are actually reduced or even ignored when you're deeply engaged in something.
So when you're in the zone, the pings don't register.
They don't register. So if analysis paralysis is the result of too many choices and too much noise, it kind of leaves you with this final big question. If the secret to focus is finding a challenge that's so engaging, you enter a state of flow, does that mean the key to ignoring distraction isn't fighting the noise, but making the task itself so perfectly balanced, right, between your skill and its difficulty, that the world around you just becomes, well, momentarily non-alerting? The research suggests that finding that balance is what finally allows the mind to just ignore the ping.